Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington, D.C., calling your attention, of course, to Tarpley.net. Tarpley.net. Keep up with the conceptual basis of the world at Tarpley.net and order the relevant books so that you can become actual sophisticated observers and, above all, activist participants, players, then, in the great world historical process that unfolds in front of us. So, U.S. position collapsing. Let's just look briefly at Kyrgyzia. As I think we pointed out last week, whoever started this, the Russians are the big gainers. This Otunbayev, she was the bulldozer of the Tulip Revolution, but she seems to have reversed her field now, looking to Moscow. There was a danger during the course of the week that a civil war might break out in Kyrgyzia on the borders of China, with the possibility of spilling over into Chinese Turkestan, that is Xinjiang province, a big target of Anglo-American destabilization. The way that this might have worked is that Bakiev, the ousted U.S. puppet president, the beneficiary of the Tulip Revolution of 2005, a NATO and IMF agent and, of course, a kleptocrat, familist regime, he had been forced to go back to his stronghold in the southern part of the country. And there had been some idea that he was gathering forces with the help of the U.S. to recross the mountain barrier and try to contest power in Bishkek, the capital. But apparently he doesn't have any backing. Of course, he came in with a color revolution. It's what you'd expect. There was on the edges of this nuclear summit, Obama meeting with Medvedev, meeting with Nazarbayev, the very cagey, very cunning head of Kazakhstan, who's been there now since the fall of the Soviets and even before. The danger to Nazarbayev was that it was important for Kazakhstan to make sure that there be no civil war. Also important for Uzbekistan to make sure that there was no civil war in Kyrgyzstan. Important for China. So Nazarbayev agreed to send a plane, and apparently Bakiev has now gotten on the plane, and he's out of there. So that looks like the end of the Tulip Revolution. So scratch another color revolution. The one in Ukraine has now been completely rolled back. They will not join NATO, and the Tulip Revolution is now also a thing of the past. Now look at Saakashvili, the fascist madman of Tiflis, Georgia. What's he going to do? Where is he headed? All right, the British elections. Not interesting to get into the details, except take a look at the various articles coming out on the Robin Hood tax, which continues to be a significant issue, not so much in the debate as far as I can see, among Brown, Cameron, and this Clegg, the Liberal Democrat, but at the level of individual parliamentary seats, there seems to be significant talk of the Robin Hood tax, the Tobin tax, the Wall Street, in this case, City of London sales tax. That's important. But the interesting thing is now the polls seem to indicate the trend towards ungovernability, towards the inability to form a majority. In other words, burning time reached in Germany 80 years ago, 80 years ago, March, April of in 1930, so 80 years ago now. The British may be getting there. Their budget deficit, of course, very large as a result of Gordon Brown's policy of bailing out Northern Rock, bailing out Royal Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Bank, and the rest of them. They're approaching a huge austerity plan, and that's what these characters don't talk about. The only way to head that off is the City of London sales tax, and, of course, 1/20th of 1%. No. Start with 1% at least. And maybe you'll get something, or indeed go with the a simple extension of the value-added tax to the City of London financial transfers. But the hung parliament, if the Liberal Democrats do better than usual, and that seems to be where the polls are going, you're going to have a situation where there will be three parties and no party able to form a majority without some kind of a coalition, which then may be impossible to get. Similarly, in this country here, the U.S., we want to point again the Petraeus-Romney option. We did have this Southern Republican leadership farce, this clown show that was held last week. And there, of course, we had, I guess, Mitt Romney coming in ahead of everybody else, closely followed by Ron Paul, and people think that this is the sign of the millennium about to arrive. Republican insiders are saying that none of those people, none of the losers who were gathered in this Republican Southern Leadership Conference, and nor indeed the ones that polled, are going to get the nomination. None of them can win. And this goes for Romney, too, because of his background designing the basis of the Obama health care plan was done by Romney in Massachusetts. What's the big difference whether a state does it or the federal government does it? What's the difference? And, of course, Romney's lack of traction on the social issues means that he is really not going to be able to rise above the hatred of political parties. What you're now seeing is the neocons here in Washington, D.C., the people at the American Enterprise Institute in particular, and I'm looking at somebody like Max Boot, B-O-O-T. Max Boot and other unreconstructed neocon warmongers are now actively pushing Petraeus for president. I told you Frank Gaffney has been talking about this on his nighttime radio show here in Washington, D.C., and others, the idea being that none of the existing Republican candidates can be taken seriously, and a lot of them don't take themselves seriously. Palin is out there to make money. We're told that she made, what was it, $12 million. The ones who do best are the ones who are clearly not running, like Huckabee. Huckabee's making money off his television programs. So it's Petraeus and Romney. And the polling among the Tea Party people, which got a lot of attention this week, was that the Tea Party people don't particularly like Romney. Of course, he's a hedge fund hyena and a Wall Street asset stripper, but they just don't trust him because of his past on social issues and so forth. Altogether too slick for the Tea Party people. So he's not going to be able to get the Tea Party activists, but since, as we noticed, the Tea Party activists are overwhelmingly retired military with military backgrounds, if it's General Petraeus, the victor of Iraq, they'll try to portray him as, and the victor of Afghanistan, both empty, hollow titles, but this is how hype works, then those Tea Party characters will fall in for General Petraeus. And again, this will be von Hindenburg. This will be a government where the army and the military and the intelligence community play a big role. We'll have a lot of warmonger stuff going on, but at the same time, an intellectual with a Princeton degree and spoke at the Princeton Alumni Day in February. So with intellectual pretensions, and as a matter of fact, cerebral enough to come across as a credible alternative to Obama for a whole bunch of academic, quackademic independents in the middle. So I'm telling you again, Petraeus-Romney, what are you going to do to stop that? Because that's von Hindenburg ballooning right there. Petraeus above the fray, von Hindenburg, and Romney will then be ballooning, doing the dirty work and getting chewed up in the process. All right. Now, this past week, I want you to take a look at the Russia Today YouTube site. You'll see a commentary by me about a new report from the U.S. Joint Forces Command, and that's General Mathis. This is Marine Corps General Mad Dog Mathis of Task Force Ripper in the first Gulf War, of the Fallujah massacres in the Iraq War, the more recent one. He has now put out, since he's the head of the U.S. Joint Forces Command, a report saying that there's an oil shortage on the horizon, that by 2012 there will be no surplus production of oil in the world, and that is going to lead to a whole series of problems. Now, isn't it obvious that the global warming demagogy fraud has been shot full of holes? It's essentially collapsing before our eyes. Now the Malthusians, the followers of Jamaria Ortiz, these incorrigibles, bring out a new fraud. They're back to peak oil. Hold on to your hat. They're back to peak oil. Check Russia Today YouTube site and see what I think about that. Back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.